Time travel is a concept that stirs the imagination, raising questions and possibilities that challenge the boundaries of our understanding. It's a notion that has found its way into every corner of popular culture, from classic literature to blockbuster movies, and it's also a subject of serious scientific and philosophical debate. But while the idea of jumping from one point in time to another seems like the stuff of dreams or nightmares, it's worth exploring what such an endeavor might entail, not just in terms of the technological hurdles we would need to overcome, but also the ethical and philosophical dilemmas that would inevitably arise. Let's start with the idea of time travel itself. It's not just about hopping into a machine, pressing a button, and arriving in the past or future. In reality, the concept is rooted in complex scientific theories, particularly those proposed by Albert Einstein. His theory of relativity suggests that time is not the rigid, unchanging backdrop we once thought it was, but something that can be stretched, compressed, and, in some theoretical cases, even looped. This gives rise to the tantalizing possibility of time travel, but it also immediately confronts us with a set of daunting challenges. First and foremost, there's the question of whether we can actually manipulate time in a way that allows for travel. Our current technology is woefully inadequate for such a task. The energy required to warp space-time, let alone create something as speculative as a wormhole, would be astronomical. Imagine the power needed to harness the forces of gravity on a cosmic scale, or to maintain the stability of a tunnel through space-time long enough for anything to pass through it. We're talking about levels of energy that are simply beyond our reach. Even if we could theoretically generate such power, the physical conditions required, such as those found near a black hole or within the dense fabric of space-time itself, are far beyond what we can currently control or even survive. But let's imagine for a moment that these technological barriers are surmountable. What then? The idea of time travel opens a Pandora's box of ethical questions. If we had the ability to go back in time, would we? Should we? The implications of altering past events are profound. Every action in the past has a ripple effect on the present and future, a concept often referred to as the butterfly effect. Change one small detail in history, and you might drastically alter the course of events that follow. This raises questions about the morality of such actions. Is it right to change history, knowing that the consequences could be unpredictable and potentially catastrophic? Would we be playing God, rewriting the lives of countless people, erasing some from existence, while perhaps creating others who never would have been born? Even without deliberate changes, just the act of observing the past could have unintended consequences. Imagine traveling back to a critical moment in history, only to accidentally influence the outcome. The ethical burden of such a possibility is immense. And what about the future? If we could see into the future, would we be tempted to try and change it? Would we lose the drive to improve our present, knowing that the future is already laid out before us? These ethical dilemmas lead us directly into the realm of philosophy. Time travel forces us to confront questions about free will and determinism. If we can travel through time, does that mean the future is already written? Are our actions predestined, or do we have the power to change our fate? If we can alter the past, does that mean history is not as fixed as we believe? Or do these alterations create new, parallel timelines, each one spinning off into its own reality? This idea, often explored in science fiction, suggests that every decision creates a new universe, with infinite possibilities existing simultaneously. But if that's the case, what happens to the timeline we leave behind? Does it continue on without us, or does it cease to exist? Then there are the paradoxes that come with time travel, logical puzzles that seem to defy reason. The grandfather paradox is perhaps the most famous. If you travel back in time and prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother, you would never have been born. But if you were never born, how could you have traveled back in time to begin with? This creates a loop of logical inconsistency that seems to challenge the very fabric of reality. Another paradox is the bootstrap paradox, where an object or piece of information is sent back in time and becomes the source of itself, with no clear origin. It's a puzzle that has stumped philosophers and physicists alike, raising questions about causality and the nature of existence. These paradoxes have led some, like physicist Stephen Hawking, to propose that the universe might have built-in protections against time travel, a concept known as the temporal protection conjecture. According to this idea, the laws of physics might prevent any alterations to the timeline, ensuring that events unfold in a consistent and unchangeable manner. This could mean that time travel, while theoretically possible, might be self-limiting in practice, with the universe somehow preventing any changes that would lead to a paradox. But while these theoretical discussions are fascinating, time travel has also captured the imagination of the public through its portrayal in popular culture. From H.G. Wells' classic novel The Time Machine to the time-bending adventures of Doctor Who, time travel has been a staple of storytelling for over a century. In these stories, time travel is often used as a metaphor for exploring the human condition, for examining the consequences of our actions, and for questioning the nature of reality itself. Whether it's the humorous escapades of Back to the Future or the dystopian warnings of the Terminator, these narratives tap into our deepest fears and desires about time, history, and the future. Video games have also embraced time travel, using it as a gameplay mechanic that allows players to explore different eras and make choices that affect the outcome of the story. Chrono Trigger, for example, is a beloved classic that takes players on a journey. Time travel has always been a tantalizing concept, but when we dive into the practicalities, we hit some formidable barriers. The idea of moving through time is intoxicatingly fascinating, yet our current technological capabilities fall drastically short of making it a reality. The manipulation of space-time, as required for time travel, involves an understanding and control of physical forces that we are nowhere near mastering. The energy requirements alone are staggering, far beyond anything we can currently produce or even conceive of producing in the near future. Think about it this way. To even begin to contemplate time travel, we need to consider the immense power needed to warp space-time. According to Einstein's theory of general relativity, massive objects like stars and planets warp the space-time around them. To create a significant enough warp that might allow for time travel, the energy involved would have to be on a cosmic scale. We're talking about harnessing the energy output equivalent to entire stars. Our most powerful machines and reactors today, impressive as they are mere sparks compared to the bonfire of energy needed for such an endeavor. Then there's the issue of creating and sustaining a wormhole, one of the more popular theoretical methods proposed for time travel. A wormhole, as imagined in the equations of general relativity, would be a tunnel through space-time connecting distant points in time and space. But this tunnel isn't just a simple structure, it would require a form of exotic matter with negative energy density to keep it open. Exotic matter is purely theoretical at this point, and even if we could produce it, the quantities needed would be astronomical. Keeping a wormhole stable without it collapsing is another unsolved problem. Theoretical physicists can describe these scenarios on paper, but translating that into physical reality is a colossal leap. Moreover, the physical conditions required for time travel are incredibly extreme. The interior of a stable wormhole or any other proposed time travel mechanism would need to endure forces and conditions that defy our current materials science. Our most advanced materials would likely disintegrate under the immense gravitational and energetic stresses. Developing materials that can withstand these conditions would require breakthroughs in physics and engineering that we haven't even begun to glimpse. There's also the problem of accuracy and control. Even if we somehow develop the technology to create and sustain a time travel mechanism, guiding it accurately would be an entirely new challenge. The universe is in constant motion, with planets, stars, and galaxies moving at incredible speeds. Calculating a precise destination in time and space and ensuring a safe arrival without catastrophic errors involves complexities that dwarf our current navigational technologies. Beyond the technical challenges, ethical and philosophical questions loom large. If we could travel through time, what would be the consequences of altering past events? The ripple effects of even minor changes could be profound and unpredictable, potentially leading to paradoxes that challenge our understanding of causality and free will. Imagine stepping on a butterfly in the past and returning to a present that's unrecognizable. These scenarios, popularized in countless stories, highlight the moral and existential dilemmas time travel could pose. Additionally, time travel forces us to reconsider the nature of reality itself. Are the past and future fixed, or can they be changed? If they are mutable, who decides what changes are permissible? The potential for misuse and unintended consequences is immense. Regulating and controlling time travel, if it ever became possible, would require an unprecedented level of global cooperation and ethical oversight. In conclusion, while time travel captures our imaginations and inspires countless works of fiction, the practical barriers are immense. Our current technology and understanding of physics are far from capable of making it a reality. The energy requirements, physical conditions, and materials science needed are beyond our reach, and the ethical and philosophical questions add layers of complexity. Time travel, for now, remains a captivating idea that pushes the boundaries of our imagination and scientific inquiry, a dream that keeps us looking towards the stars and pondering the mysteries of the universe. If time travel were possible, it would plunge us into a whirlpool of ethical dilemmas and moral quandaries that could redefine our very understanding of responsibility and consequence. The ability to alter past events isn't just a scientific breakthrough, it's a Pandora's box, opening up possibilities that range from miraculous to catastrophic. Imagine having the power to change the course of history, erasing atrocities, preventing disasters, or even resurrecting lost loved ones. It sounds like a dream come true, but the reality of such power would be far more complex and fraught with peril. At the heart of these ethical implications lies the fundamental question: should we change the past? Every action we take ripples through time, creating a cascade of consequences that we might not be able to predict or control. If we could go back and stop a war, for instance, we might save millions of lives, but what unforeseen effects would that have on the present? Perhaps the end of that war led to a period of unprecedented technological advancement or social change. By altering one event, we could unravel a tapestry of history that has shaped the world as we know it. Moreover, who gets to decide what changes are made? The power to alter history is immense and, in the wrong hands, could be devastating. Imagine if time travel were controlled by a tyrannical regime or a corporation with its own agenda. They could rewrite history to suit their needs, erasing the existence of entire populations, manipulating economies, or establishing their dominance in ways that could never be challenged. Even well-intentioned actions could have dire consequences if not carefully considered. The idea of playing God, of deciding which events should or shouldn't happen, carries an immense moral burden that humanity might not be ready to bear. There's also the question of individual autonomy and free will. If we could change past events, would that undermine the choices made by those who lived through them? Every person is shaped by their experiences, and altering those experiences could fundamentally change who they are. Consider the implications for personal identity and agency. If someone travels back in time to prevent a loved one's death, they might return to a present where that loved one's life choices led to unforeseen negative consequences. The very act of trying to improve the past could create a future filled with new and unexpected challenges. Ethical dilemmas also extend to the potential misuse of time travel for personal gain. If individuals could travel back in time to amass wealth, power, or influence, it would create an uneven playing field and exacerbate existing inequalities. The temptation to alter the past for selfish reasons could lead to a society where historical events are constantly in flux, manipulated by those with access to time travel technology. The resulting instability could make it impossible to trust the integrity of historical records or the authenticity of personal experiences. Furthermore, the concept of justice would be turned on its head. If crimes could be undone or prevented before they happen, how would we hold individuals accountable? The judicial system is built on the notion of cause and effect, but time travel could blur those lines, making it difficult to determine guilt or innocence. Imagine a scenario where a crime is committed and then someone travels back to stop it, erasing the event from the timeline. The victim would be saved, but the perpetrator might never be brought to justice, creating a paradox of accountability. The ethical implications of time travel extend beyond human interactions to our relationship with the environment. What if we could go back and reverse industrialization to prevent climate change? While this might seem like a noble goal, the Industrial Revolution also brought about medical advances, increased life expectancy, and improvements in quality of life. Undoing it could have unforeseen negative consequences for billions of people. Balancing the desire to correct past mistakes with the need to preserve the beneficial aspects of history would be a delicate and potentially impossible task. In essence, the ethical landscape of time travel is a minefield of moral complexity. The power to change the past comes with immense responsibility, and the potential for unintended consequences is enormous. It challenges our notions of free will, justice, and the very fabric of reality. While the idea of time travel captivates our imaginations and offers tantalizing possibilities, it also forces us to confront profound questions about who we are, what we value, and how we navigate the intricate web of history. The dream of time travel might forever remain just that, a dream, because the reality of its ethical implications could be too overwhelming for humanity to handle. Time travel, with its tantalizing promise of journeying through the fabric of time, delves deep into some of the most profound philosophical questions that have intrigued thinkers for centuries. It's not just about the mechanics of moving through time, but about what such movement means for our understanding of existence itself. At its core, time travel forces us to confront the very essence of free will, causality, and the nature of reality, pushing the boundaries of our philosophical imagination. Imagine, for a moment, that time travel is possible. This immediately brings up the question of free will. If we can travel back in time and change events, does that mean our actions in the present are predetermined by future travelers altering the past? Or do we possess the genuine freedom to make choices, uninfluenced by any temporal interferences? The idea of someone from the future manipulating our past implies that our decisions might not be entirely our own, but rather the result of someone else's intervention. This leads us to wonder, are we merely players in a pre-written script, or do we have the power to carve out our own destinies? Causality, the principle that cause precedes effect, is another cornerstone of our understanding of reality that time travel throws into disarray. Traditionally, we see time as a linear progression where events unfold in a sequential order. Time travel, however, introduces the possibility of effects preceding their causes, a scenario that upends our logical framework. For instance, if a person travels back in time and prevents an event that motivated their journey in the first place, what happens to their original impetus for traveling? This conundrum, known as the grandfather paradox, challenges our conventional notions of cause and effect, suggesting a universe far more complex and intertwined than our current understanding allows. Furthermore, time travel provokes a deep contemplation of the nature of reality itself. Are the past and future fixed, immutable points along a timeline, or are they fluid and subject to change? If the past can be altered, then history as we know it is not set in stone, but is instead a malleable tapestry that can be rewoven at will. This raises the question of alternate realities and parallel universes. Could altering the past create branching timelines, each representing different outcomes of historical events? If so, each decision we make might spawn a new reality, a multiverse of infinite possibilities where every conceivable outcome exists somewhere. These philosophical musings extend to the very fabric of existence. What is time, really? Is it an unchanging dimension we move through, or is it something more dynamic and elusive? Einstein's theories suggest that time is intertwined with space, forming a four-dimensional continuum known as space-time. This conception blurs the lines between past, present, and future, hinting at a universe where time is just another dimension to be navigated. But if we can traverse this dimension, what does that say about the nature of our reality? Are we, then, temporal beings, capable of existing at multiple points along the timeline simultaneously? The idea of time travel also compels us to rethink our relationship with the universe. If we can influence the past, we must consider our ethical responsibilities toward it. Every action in the past could have vast, unpredictable repercussions in the future, a notion that imbues time travel with a weighty moral dimension. This interplay between action and consequence on a temporal scale demands a re-evaluation of our ethical frameworks, expanding them to accommodate the complexities of a temporally fluid existence. Moreover, time travel invites us to ponder the concept of identity and continuity. If a person can exist in multiple timelines, how do we define their identity? Are they the same person, or do they become a different version of themselves with each altered event? This question touches on the essence of what it means to be human, challenging our notions of self and the continuity of personal identity. In grappling with these philosophical questions, time travel transcends its scientific and technological implications, becoming a profound exploration of our deepest existential queries. It forces us to confront the nature of reality, the limits of free will, and the intricacies of causality. Whether or not time travel ever becomes a reality, its philosophical challenges will continue to inspire and perplex us, driving us to seek a deeper understanding of the universe and our place within it. In contemplating time travel, we embark on a journey not just through time, but into the very heart of what it means to exist. The grandfather paradox is one of the most intriguing and perplexing puzzles in the realm of time travel, a scenario that highlights the logical inconsistencies and complexities inherent in the concept. Imagine you have a time machine, and out of curiosity or a sense of adventure, you decide to travel back in time to a period long before you were born. You find yourself in the early 20th century, a time when your grandparents are young and just beginning their lives. Now, suppose you encounter your grandfather as a young man. Maybe he's living in a small town, working a modest job, and has yet to meet your grandmother. For some reason, perhaps by accident, or maybe through a deliberate action, you prevent your grandfather from ever meeting your grandmother. This could be as dramatic as causing his untimely death or as benign as merely ensuring their paths never cross. Regardless of how it happens, the result is the same. Your grandparents never meet, they never marry, and they never have children. Consequently, your parent is never born, and by extension, you are never born. But here's where the paradox kicks in. If you were never born, then you could never have existed to travel back in time in the first place. And if you never traveled back in time, then there would have been nothing to prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother. They would have met, fallen in love, and eventually, you would have been born. This creates a loop of logical contradictions where your existence hinges on an event that you yourself have negated. The grandfather paradox is a classic example of what's known as a temporal paradox, which occurs when changes made in the past could lead to inconsistencies in the present or future. One way to think about this paradox is through the lens of different theoretical frameworks. In a single, fixed timeline, where the past, present, and future are immutable, the grandfather paradox suggests that time travel into the past is fundamentally impossible. The timeline cannot be altered because doing so would create contradictions. This perspective supports the idea that any attempt to change the past would be inherently self-defeating. However, some theorists propose alternative models of time, such as the multiverse or many worlds interpretation. According to these models, every possible outcome of an event exists in its own separate universe. When you travel back in time and prevent your grandfather from meeting your grandmother, you don't alter your original timeline, but instead create a new parallel timeline where you never exist. In this scenario, the paradox is resolved because the original timeline, where you were born and later traveled back in time, remains intact. The new timeline is just one of many possible realities, each with its own distinct history and future. The grandfather paradox also delves into deeper philosophical questions about identity and existence. If altering the past creates a new timeline, what happens to your identity? Are you the same person who existed in the original timeline, or do you become a different version of yourself in the new one? This ties into broader debates about determinism and free will. If the future can be altered, does that mean our choices are not predetermined, or does it imply that all possible choices and outcomes are already laid out across multiple timelines? The paradox also highlights the ethical implications of time travel. If you have the power to change the past, what responsibilities do you bear for the consequences of your actions? Preventing your own birth is a dramatic example, but any change to the past could have far-reaching and unpredictable effects on countless lives. The butterfly effect, where small changes in initial conditions can lead to vastly different outcomes, underscores the potential for unintended consequences in temporal interventions. In contemplating the grandfather paradox, we are confronted with the limits of our understanding of time, causality, and existence. It remains one of the most compelling arguments against the feasibility of time travel, at least as we currently understand it. Whether or not we ever unlock the secrets of temporal manipulation, the paradox will continue to challenge and inspire thinkers, inviting us to explore the profound mysteries of the universe and our place within it. The grandfather paradox is not just a puzzle about time travel, it is a mirror reflecting the complexities and contradictions of our attempts to understand the nature of reality itself. The bootstrap paradox is one of the most fascinating and mind-bending scenarios in the realm of time travel, where the lines between cause and effect blur in a perplexing dance. Imagine a scenario where an object or piece of information travels back in time and becomes the very source of itself in the future. This creates a causal loop with no clear point of origin, a true enigma that challenges our understanding of time and reality. Picture this. You're a writer struggling to come up with the perfect plot for your novel. One evening, a mysterious package arrives at your doorstep. Inside, you find a manuscript of a best-selling novel. Intrigued, you read it and realize it's the exact story you've been dreaming of writing. You decide to publish it under your name, and it becomes an instant hit. Years later, after enjoying the fame and success of your novel, you decide to give back. You package the manuscript and send it back in time to your younger self, ensuring that it arrives at your doorstep on that fateful evening. Here lies the paradox. Who is the original author of the manuscript? It seems to have no point of origin, existing in an endless loop where you are both the receiver and the sender. The bootstrap paradox is named after the phrase pulling oneself up by one's bootstraps, which reflects the seemingly impossible nature of the scenario. It's a concept that stretches the boundaries of logical thinking, as it suggests that something can exist without ever having been created. This paradox challenges the very fabric of causality, which is the principle that everything has a cause that precedes its effect. In the case of the bootstrap paradox, the cause and effect become indistinguishable, creating a loop that defies conventional logic. Another compelling example of the bootstrap paradox is the story of a time traveler who takes a piece of advanced technology back to the past. Suppose a scientist from the future travels back to the 19th century and shares the plans for a revolutionary invention with a young inventor. The young inventor, inspired by these plans, builds the invention and gains worldwide fame. Eventually, the invention becomes a staple of society, and the plans for it are preserved. Centuries later, the original scientist, now living in a future where the invention is common, comes across these plans and decides to travel back in time to share them with the young inventor, thus completing the loop. The question then arises: where did the original idea for the invention come from? The paradox is not limited to objects and information, it can also apply to people. Consider the tale of a young woman who is rescued from a dire situation by a mysterious stranger. Years later, she discovers the secrets of time travel and decides to go back in time to save her younger self, becoming the very stranger who once rescued her. This creates a loop where her existence as the rescuer and the rescued are intertwined, with no clear starting point. The bootstrap paradox is more than just a theoretical curiosity, it has profound implications for our understanding of time and existence. It challenges the notion of linear time, suggesting that the past, present, and future are not distinct entities, but rather parts of a complex, interconnected whole. This paradox invites us to reconsider our perception of reality, pushing the boundaries of what we believe to be possible. Philosophically, the bootstrap paradox raises questions about the nature of knowledge and creation. If information or objects can exist without an origin, what does that say about the process of discovery and invention? It suggests that some aspects of our reality might be self-sustaining loops, existing independently of a clear beginning. This idea can be both exhilarating and unsettling, as it implies that the universe might operate under principles that are fundamentally different from our everyday experiences. Moreover, the paradox forces us to grapple with the implications of time travel itself. If such loops can exist, what other unexpected consequences might arise from tampering with the timeline? The bootstrap paradox serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us that the interplay between past, present, and future is delicate and complex. It warns us that even with the best intentions, altering the timeline can lead to outcomes that defy comprehension. In exploring the bootstrap paradox, we are invited into a world where the impossible becomes possible, where cause and effect merge into a seamless loop. It's a world that challenges our understanding of reality and beckons us to ponder the mysteries of time and existence. Whether or not time travel ever becomes a reality, the paradox will continue to captivate our imaginations, offering a glimpse into the enigmatic nature of the universe. It's a puzzle that may never be solved, but in seeking to understand it, we uncover deeper truths about the fabric of reality and our place within it. The temporal protection conjecture, a fascinating idea proposed by the brilliant physicist Stephen Hawking, suggests that the laws of physics might possess built-in mechanisms to prevent time travel, thereby avoiding the myriad paradoxes and potential catastrophes associated with altering the timeline. It's a concept that not only intrigues scientists, but also captivates anyone who's ever pondered the possibilities and pitfalls of traveling through time. Imagine, for a moment, that time travel is possible. The allure of journeying to the past or future is undeniable. You could witness historical events firsthand, meet iconic figures, or perhaps even alter moments that shaped your personal history. But with this power comes a Pandora's box of paradoxes. What if you accidentally prevent your own birth by disrupting your parents' meeting? Or what if you save someone in the past, thereby altering countless lives and events in unpredictable ways? These scenarios, while intriguing, create logical inconsistencies that challenge our understanding of causality and the very fabric of reality. Enter the temporal protection conjecture. Hawking proposed this idea with a sense of cautious optimism, suggesting that nature might have a way of safeguarding the timeline from such disruptions. According to this conjecture, the laws of physics themselves contain provisions that make time travel to the past impossible or at least highly improbable. It's as if the universe has built-in safeguards, a cosmic fail-safe mechanism to prevent the chaos that could ensue from meddling with history. One way to envision this protection is through the lens of quantum mechanics and general relativity. These two pillars of modern physics offer insights into the nature of time and space. In the realm of general relativity, massive objects warp the fabric of space-time, creating potential pathways known as wormholes. These hypothetical tunnels could, in theory, connect distant points in space and time. However, the energy requirements and conditions needed to create and sustain a traversable wormhole are astronomical, far beyond our current technological capabilities. This immense difficulty acts as a natural barrier to time travel. Quantum mechanics, with its probabilistic nature and uncertainty principles, adds another layer of complexity. The act of observing or interacting with quantum systems can alter their states, suggesting that any attempt to manipulate time might result in unpredictable consequences. The conjecture implies that any paradoxical event, such as the infamous grandfather paradox where you prevent your own existence, would be inherently self-defeating. The timeline would somehow protect itself, ensuring that such paradoxes cannot manifest. Hawking's conjecture also resonates with the concept of cosmic censorship, another idea in theoretical physics, which posits that the universe hides singularities, such as those inside black holes, from view to maintain the integrity of space-time. Similarly, the temporal protection conjecture suggests that the universe might obscure or prevent time travel paradoxes to preserve causality and coherence. The philosophical implications of the temporal protection conjecture are profound. It challenges our notions of free will and determinism. If the timeline is protected, does that imply a fixed, unchangeable history where all events are predestined? Or could it mean that while we have free will, our choices are confined within a framework that prevents us from causing temporal disruptions? Furthermore, the conjecture touches on ethical considerations. The power to alter the past carries immense responsibility. Even minor changes could ripple through time, affecting countless lives in unforeseen ways. By proposing a natural safeguard, the temporal protection conjecture relieves us of the burden of these ethical dilemmas, suggesting that such power might never be within our grasp. While the temporal protection conjecture remains a theoretical proposal, it offers a comforting thought: that the universe is inherently self-protective, maintaining the integrity of the timeline and preventing the chaos of paradoxes. It's a reminder that, despite our scientific advancements and imaginative explorations, some mysteries of the cosmos remain beyond our reach, safeguarded by the very laws that govern existence. In essence, the temporal protection conjecture invites us to marvel at the elegance and complexity of the universe. It's a testament to the profound interconnectedness of space, time, and the laws of physics. Whether or not time travel ever becomes a reality, Hawking's conjecture encourages us to appreciate the stability and coherence of the timeline, a cosmic narrative that unfolds seamlessly, protected by the subtle yet powerful forces of nature. Einstein's theory of relativity is one of the most groundbreaking and mind-expanding theories in the history of science, fundamentally altering our understanding of time, space, and the very fabric of the universe. It's split into two parts: special relativity and general relativity, each addressing different aspects of how we perceive and interact with the cosmos. Special relativity, introduced by Einstein in 1905, brought forth the revolutionary idea that time is not a constant universal entity, but rather something that can vary depending on the observer's velocity. Imagine you're in a spaceship traveling close to the speed of light, zipping through the cosmos at unimaginable speeds. According to special relativity, time for you would slow down compared to someone who is stationary. This phenomenon, known as time dilation, means that if you took a round trip through space at near light speed and returned to Earth, you might find that only a few years have passed for you, while decades or even centuries have passed on Earth. This isn't just theoretical, it's a measurable effect that has been confirmed by experiments with atomic clocks on fast-moving jets and satellites. But how does this work? It all comes down to the nature of space and time. In our everyday experience, we think of time as a constant, ticking uniformly in the background. However, Einstein showed that time and space are interwoven into a single continuum called space-time. When you move through space at high speeds, you're altering the way you move through time as well. It's as if the universe has a speed limit, the speed of light, and as you approach it, the universe compensates by stretching time for you, ensuring that nothing can exceed this cosmic speed limit. General relativity, which Einstein published in 1915, takes these ideas even further by introducing gravity into the mix. In this theory, gravity is not just a force pulling objects together, as Newton described, but a curvature of space-time itself caused by mass. Imagine placing a heavy ball on a trampoline. The ball creates a depression, curving the fabric of the trampoline. If you then roll a smaller ball across the trampoline, it will move towards the heavier ball, not because it's being pulled by a force, but because it's following the curved path created by the heavier ball. This is essentially how general relativity describes gravity. Massive objects like stars and planets warp the space-time around them, and other objects move along these curved paths. One of the most intriguing implications of general relativity is the possibility of wormholes. These hypothetical tunnels through space-time could connect distant points in the universe, potentially allowing for travel between them much faster than light could traverse the intervening space. Picture a piece of paper with two dots on it, representing two distant points in space. If you fold the paper so that the dots touch, you've created a shortcut between them. A wormhole would be like this folded paper, bending space-time to connect far-flung regions. However, while wormholes are mathematically possible, we have no experimental evidence that they exist or that they could be traversable by humans or any other matter. The implications of Einstein's theories are profound and far-reaching, influencing everything from the way we understand the universe to the technologies we use every day. GPS satellites, for example, must account for time dilation effects predicted by both special and general relativity to provide accurate positioning data. Without these corrections, the system would quickly become inaccurate. Einstein's work also opened the door to a universe where the past, present, and future are not as distinct as they seem. In the fabric of space-time, events are not fixed points, but part of a continuous, dynamic entity. This interconnectedness challenges our perceptions and invites us to rethink our place in the cosmos. In essence, Einstein's theory of relativity transforms our understanding of reality, revealing a universe that is far more complex and wondrous than our everyday experiences suggest. It teaches us that time and space are malleable, intertwined dimensions, constantly shaped by the matter and energy within them. Through his revolutionary insights, Einstein has not only expanded the frontiers of science, but also deepened our appreciation for the mysteries and marvels of the universe. Wormholes, those enigmatic and tantalizing constructs of space-time, captivate our imaginations like few other concepts in the realm of physics. These hypothetical tunnels offer the alluring promise of connecting distant points in space and time, potentially transforming science fiction's fantastical journeys into scientific fact. If traversable, wormholes could revolutionize our understanding of the universe, making time travel a reality and drastically altering our conception of distance and duration. To envision a wormhole, imagine the universe as a two-dimensional sheet of paper. Now, draw 2 points on this paper, each representing distant locations in space. Ordinarily, traveling between these points requires moving across the surface, a journey that might take light years. But what if you could fold the paper so that the 2 points touch? Suddenly, a shortcut emerges, bypassing the vast distance in between. This is the essence of a wormhole. A shortcut through the fabric of space-time, potentially connecting regions separated by vast expanses or even different eras. The concept of wormholes stems from Einstein's general theory of relativity, which describes how massive objects warp space-time, creating the gravitational effects we observe. In 1935, Einstein and his colleague Nathan Rosen introduced the idea of bridges in space-time, now known as Einstein-Rosen bridges or wormholes. These theoretical passages, if they exist, could connect two separate points in the universe, possibly allowing for faster-than-light travel and even journeys through time. The idea of using wormholes for time travel adds another layer of fascination. If you could traverse a wormhole, theoretically, you might emerge not just in a different location, but in a different time. This raises the tantalizing possibility of visiting the past or future. However, the practical challenges and speculative nature of wormholes make this far from a straightforward endeavor. For one, the creation of a stable, traversable wormhole would require conditions and materials far beyond our current technological capabilities. Exotic matter, with negative energy density, is one such requirement, hypothesized to keep a wormhole open and stable, preventing it from collapsing under its own gravity. Even if we could create or find a naturally occurring wormhole, the question of stability remains. Wormholes, as theoretical constructs, are notoriously unstable. Any attempt to travel through them might cause them to collapse, potentially trapping or destroying anything inside. The immense gravitational forces at play could also create tidal effects, stretching and compressing objects in ways that would be lethal to humans. Despite these daunting challenges, the allure of wormholes continues to inspire scientists and enthusiasts alike. Theoretical physicists explore the mathematics of wormholes, seeking solutions to the equations of general relativity that might indicate stable configurations. Meanwhile, science fiction writers and filmmakers have embraced wormholes as a narrative device, weaving them into stories that stretch the boundaries of imagination. From the intricate plots of Interstellar to the time-bending adventures of Doctor Who, wormholes serve as a bridge between the plausible and the fantastical, inviting us to dream of a universe where the impossible becomes possible. The speculative nature of wormholes also invites deeper philosophical questions. If wormholes enable time travel, what would be the implications for causality and free will? Could changes made in the past ripple through the present, creating paradoxes that defy logical consistency? These questions push the boundaries of our understanding, challenging us to reconcile the strange counterintuitive nature of space-time with our everyday experiences of reality. In the end, while wormholes remain firmly in the realm of theoretical physics, their potential to reshape our understanding of the universe is profound. They represent a frontier where the known and unknown converge, a tantalizing glimpse of possibilities that stretch the limits of human ingenuity and curiosity. Whether or not wormholes ever transition from theoretical constructs to tangible phenomena, their study enriches our appreciation for the complexity and wonder of the cosmos. So, as we ponder the mysteries of wormholes, we are reminded of the vastness of our ignorance and the boundless potential of our curiosity. The quest to understand and perhaps even traverse these cosmic tunnels reflects our deepest desires to explore, to discover, and to transcend the limits of our current existence. Wormholes, in their enigmatic and speculative glory, stand as a testament to the unending journey of human knowledge and imagination, forever beckoning us to reach for the stars and beyond. Cosmic strings are an intriguing concept straight out of theoretical physics, and they stretch the imagination as much as they could, if real, stretch across the universe. They're not strings in the everyday sense, like those found in your pocket or wrapped around a package, but instead they are impossibly thin, one-dimensional defects in the very fabric of space-time. Imagine them as remnants, or scars, from the early moments of the universe's birth, leftovers from when everything was unimaginably hot and dense right after the Big Bang. Some physicists suggest that when the universe expanded and cooled, cosmic strings could have formed as a kind of wrinkle in the otherwise smooth surface of space-time. Think of them like the cracks in the ice as a frozen pond settles after a hard freeze, but instead of ice, it's the very structure of reality that's cracking. What's truly mind-bending about cosmic strings is their potential impact on space-time itself. Since they're incredibly dense, with some models suggesting that just a mile of cosmic string could outweigh the entire Earth, their gravitational pull would be off the charts. This intense gravity would warp and curve space-time around them in extreme ways. And that's where things start getting really interesting, because when space-time gets bent, strange things can happen, including potentially, wait for it, time travel. To understand how cosmic strings might allow for time travel, you need to think of space and time as being interconnected, like a fabric. When massive objects warp this fabric, they can twist both space and time in ways that allow for shortcuts or, in the wildest scenarios, loops. Cosmic strings, being thinner than a proton but with the mass of entire planets, could create such extreme deformations of space-time that if two strings passed close to each other or formed a loop, they might create a closed time-like curve. A closed time-like curve is essentially a path through space-time that loops back on itself, meaning that if you were to follow this path, you could theoretically return to a previous point in time. But cosmic strings aren't just theoretical flights of fancy. Physicists have been hunting for evidence of them for decades, and while they haven't found anything definitive, they're not ready to rule them out. Some models of the early universe, particularly those tied to the idea of inflation, the rapid expansion of the universe after the Big Bang, suggest that cosmic strings should have formed. If that's the case, they could still be out there, slicing through the cosmos like invisible, super-dense threads. Now, let's say for a moment that cosmic strings do exist, and we could somehow find them and harness their incredible power. This would be no easy feat. We're talking about manipulating objects that are thinner than atoms and stretch across vast distances. But if we could, the possibilities are staggering. By navigating the warps in space-time around cosmic strings, you might be able to create a time machine of sorts. It wouldn't be like hopping into a DeLorean and punching in a date on a console, but more like taking a carefully plotted journey through the folds of the universe, traveling in ways that defy our usual understanding of linear time. Of course, there are hurdles to this idea beyond just finding cosmic strings. The energy required to manipulate them would likely be astronomical, and we don't yet have a theory of quantum gravity that fully explains how space-time behaves on such small scales. Then there's the pesky problem of paradoxes. What happens if you travel back in time and alter the past? The famous grandfather paradox, where a time traveler prevents their own existence by interfering in history, looms large in any discussion of time travel. Some theories suggest that the universe might have built-in mechanisms to prevent such paradoxes, while others leave the door open to alternate timelines or realities where any and every outcome is possible. Cosmic strings, if they exist, represent a tantalizing glimpse into the possibility that time travel isn't just science fiction, but could one day become a reality, rooted in the exotic physics of the cosmos itself. They blur the line between what's possible and what's unimaginable, inviting us to ponder whether the universe is stranger and more malleable than we ever thought. Quantum mechanics is one of the strangest, most perplexing fields in modern physics, where reality itself seems to behave in ways that completely defy our everyday understanding. It's a world where particles can exist in multiple places at once, communicate with each other across vast distances faster than the speed of light, and seemingly make decisions based on events that haven't even happened yet. And while it all sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi novel, these are real phenomena observed in laboratories around the world. Naturally, such mind-bending behavior has led some scientists to speculate about whether quantum mechanics might hold the key to time travel. At the heart of quantum mechanics is the idea that particles, like electrons or photons, don't behave like tiny billiard balls rolling predictably across a table. Instead, they exist in a kind of blur of probabilities, described by what's called a wave function, which only collapses into a definite state when someone observes or measures it. This is the famous Schrödinger's cat thought experiment, where a cat in a box is simultaneously alive and dead until someone peeks inside to see which it is. But there's an even stranger implication lurking in quantum theory. What if these particles aren't just shaped by the present moment, but also by the future? In some interpretations of quantum mechanics, particularly in something called the retrocausal interpretation, particles may actually be able to influence their past states. It's like making a decision today that somehow changes what you did yesterday. In quantum terms, there's a phenomenon called the delayed choice experiment that suggests this might be possible. In these experiments, a particle seems to decide how it behaved in the past, based on measurements made in the present. While this isn't time travel in the traditional sense, no DeLoreans, no flux capacitors, it raises the question of whether, on some deep fundamental level, time might not be as rigid as we think. If particles can influence their past under certain circumstances, some physicists wonder if the same could be true on a larger scale. Could we, with a deeper understanding of quantum mechanics, unlock the ability to send information or even objects back in time? This idea has sparked some of the most speculative and, frankly, wildest theories about quantum time travel. Some even suggest that wormholes, those hypothetical tunnels through space-time, could be stabilized by quantum effects, creating a kind of bridge through time itself. But these ideas remain, at this point, firmly in the realm of theoretical physics. The problem with using quantum mechanics for time travel is that we're still grappling with how to fully understand and apply it on a practical scale. Quantum particles behave in ways that are so bizarre, we're still trying to figure out what it all means. For instance, quantum entanglement, the idea that two particles can be connected so that the state of one instantaneously affects the state of the other, no matter how far apart they are, seems like a form of faster-than-light communication. But even this spooky action at a distance doesn't translate into something we can harness for time travel or even faster-than-light messaging in the conventional sense. It's like having a key to a door that you know exists, but not being able to find the door. There's also the issue of scaling up quantum phenomena. While particles like electrons and photons might display retrocausality, we're made up of trillions and trillions of such particles, which behave differently when grouped together. The everyday world, governed by classical physics, doesn't seem to allow for the same kind of rule bending that quantum particles enjoy. You can't make a car or a human blink in and out of existence or be in two places at once, or at least, we haven't figured out how to yet. So while quantum mechanics offers a tantalizing glimpse into a universe where the past, present, and future might not be as fixed as we once thought, it's still a long way from allowing us to step into a time machine. But that hasn't stopped physicists from dreaming. After all, if quantum mechanics has taught us anything, it's that the universe is far stranger than we can imagine. And maybe, just maybe, the answers to time travel are buried somewhere deep in the bizarre behavior of the quantum world, waiting to be uncovered. Time travel has long been one of the most fascinating ideas in science fiction, and two literary works stand out as cornerstones of the genre: H.G. Wells' The Time Machine and Ray Bradbury's A Sound of Thunder. Both stories explore the idea of moving through time, but each takes a radically different approach to what that experience might be like and, more importantly, what it could mean for humanity. When H.G. Wells published The Time Machine in 1895, he essentially laid the foundation for modern time travel stories. The novel is a remarkable blend of scientific speculation and social commentary, and Wells introduces the idea of a mechanical device that could propel its occupant forward or backward through time. The story follows a nameless protagonist, known only as the time traveler, who ventures far into the future to witness the fate of the human race. Rather than finding a utopia or some advanced civilization, the time traveler is shocked to discover a world inhabited by two distinct species: the peaceful, childlike Eloi and the subterranean, brutish Morlocks. Wells uses this distant future as a kind of cautionary tale, suggesting that the social inequalities of his own time might lead to humanity's eventual degradation. Instead of progress, Wells portrays a bleak and almost hopeless vision of what lies ahead for humankind, with the time traveler becoming a witness to the slow decay of civilization itself. What makes the time machine so compelling isn't just its imaginative leap into the future, but the questions it raises about time itself. The novel suggests that time travel isn't just about visiting different points in history or the future, it's about seeing the long arc of human evolution and understanding that our current moment is just one brief chapter in a much larger, more complex story. Wells forces readers to confront the idea that human civilization is not necessarily permanent and that time itself is indifferent to our aspirations, failures, and struggles. In contrast, Ray Bradbury's A Sound of Thunder, written in 1952, takes a much more personal and immediate look at time travel. Rather than journeying millions of years into the future, Bradbury's story is focused on the potential consequences of altering the past. The tale centers around a company that offers time safaris, allowing customers to travel back in time to hunt dinosaurs. The rules are simple. Do not leave the designated path, and do not interfere with anything in the past. But, as you might guess, things go terribly wrong when one of the characters, in a moment of panic, steps off the path and crushes a butterfly. It seems like a tiny, inconsequential action, but when the group returns to the present, they find that the world has changed in subtle yet profound ways. Language is different, politics have shifted, and it becomes clear that this one small action in the distant past has had ripple effects that dramatically altered the course of history. This concept, now known as the butterfly effect, became one of the most influential ideas in discussions of time travel. Bradbury's story warns us about the fragility of timelines and the immense responsibility that would come with the ability to meddle with the past. Even the smallest change could have catastrophic consequences for the future. Together, Wells and Bradbury offer two distinct but equally powerful visions of time travel. Wells' novel is sweeping and philosophical, imagining time as a vast, almost unchangeable force that reveals the fate of humanity. Bradbury's short story, on the other hand, focuses on the minute, suggesting that even the tiniest action can have far-reaching implications. In both cases, time travel is not just a thrilling adventure, it's a way to explore the deeper questions of fate, responsibility, and what it means to be human in the vast, ever-changing flow of time. Time travel has become a cultural obsession, and nowhere is this more evident than in the worlds of movies and TV shows. Few topics have captured the imagination like the idea of moving through time, altering the past, or glimpsing the future. Among the many works that explore this concept, three stand out for their massive influence and unique takes on time travel: Back to the Future, Doctor Who, and The Terminator. The Back to the Future trilogy is perhaps one of the most beloved time travel stories ever told. At its heart is Marty McFly, a typical teenager who gets caught up in the adventure of a lifetime when his eccentric scientist friend, Doc Brown, invents a time machine. But it's not just any time machine, it's a DeLorean, a sleek sports car that, when combined with the iconic flux capacitor and 1.21 gigawatts of power, can rocket its occupants to any moment in history. The film masterfully blends humor, adventure, and the perils of messing with time. Marty's journey to 1955, where he inadvertently disrupts the moment his parents met, kicks off a series of wild events that threaten his own existence. The idea that even small changes in the past could have major consequences in the future became a key theme throughout the trilogy. It's a perfect example of how time travel, while fun, can quickly spiral out of control, forcing Marty and Doc to constantly scramble to repair the timeline. Back to the Future isn't just a fun ride, though. It touches on deep questions about fate, free will, and whether the future is something we can change. Marty's efforts to correct the mistakes he inadvertently causes offer a playful yet thought-provoking look at how the past shapes the present and future. And let's be honest, the DeLorean has become one of the most iconic time machines in pop culture history. On the other side of the time travel spectrum is Doctor Who, a show that has been on air for over 50 years and continues to captivate audiences with its blend of science fiction, heart, and adventure. The Doctor is an alien known as a Time Lord, a being with the ability to regenerate into new forms and travel through time and space in the TARDIS. The TARDIS itself is a marvel disguised as a blue British police box. It's much larger on the inside and capable of transporting the Doctor and his companions to any point in time or space. What makes Doctor Who special is its ability to tell endless stories in a variety of settings, from the dawn of the universe to far-off futures, while still grounding everything in the Doctor's compassion and desire to help others. The show doesn't just use time travel as a plot device, it explores what it means to be human, to face the consequences of one's actions, and how the smallest moments in time can shape history. Doctor Who also plays with the fluidity of time, often suggesting that the future is not set in stone, but something that can be shaped by individuals' choices. The Doctor, with all their wisdom and experience, constantly navigates the moral complexities of knowing the future and intervening in the past. The show's ability to jump between genres horror, comedy, drama, adventure while keeping time travel at its core has allowed it to remain fresh and exciting for decades. Then there's The Terminator, a franchise that takes a much darker and more intense approach to time travel. In this world, time travel is not about exploration or adventure but survival. The first film centers on the idea that machines, in a future where they've taken over the world, send a killer cyborg back in time to eliminate the mother of the future resistance leader, John Connor. It's a desperate attempt to change the outcome of a war before it even starts. The Terminator explores the terrifying consequences of using time travel to alter history and the idea that the future is not as fixed as we think. What makes The Terminator so compelling is the sense of inevitability that runs through it. The characters are constantly battling against fate, whether it's Sarah Connor trying to escape her predetermined role as the mother of humanity's savior, or the machines trying to rewrite history to secure their victory. The film's grim view of time travel offers a counterpoint to the lighter takes of Back to the Future or Doctor Who. Here, time travel is dangerous, unpredictable, and potentially catastrophic, raising questions about whether altering the future is even possible or if it only creates a different set of problems. Together, these three works, Back to the Future, Doctor Who, and The Terminator, demonstrate just how diverse time travel stories can be. Whether it's used for comedic adventure, philosophical exploration, or a dystopian warning, time travel continues to captivate us because it taps into our deepest desires. To understand our past, control our future, and defy the limits of time itself. Time travel has always been a powerful storytelling tool, and in comics and video games, it's used to create epic, high-stakes adventures where characters are forced to wrestle with the consequences of changing the past or confronting an uncertain future. Two standout examples that have cemented their place in popular culture are the X-Men Days of Future Past storyline and the video game Chrono Trigger. Both works use time travel to explore questions of fate, responsibility, and the price of trying to alter the course of history, though they do so in ways that are distinctively unique to their mediums. In X-Men Days of Future Past, time travel becomes a desperate gamble to prevent a nightmarish future where mutants are hunted, imprisoned, or exterminated. Originally published in 1981, this storyline has since become one of the most iconic in the entire X-Men franchise, thanks to its bold blend of action, suspense, and dystopian themes. The story unfolds in two timelines. One in a future where mutant hunting robots known as Sentinels have taken over, and another in the present, where the X-Men are trying to stop this future from happening. In the dystopian future, mutants live in internment camps, and the human race itself is on the brink of annihilation, with the Sentinels' quest for control spiraling out of control. The only way to stop it? Send someone back in time to prevent the pivotal event that set everything into motion: the assassination of a political leader by the mutant Mystique. The brilliance of Days of Future Past lies in the tension between hope and hopelessness. Even as the X-Men work to change the past, there's no guarantee that their actions will be enough to rewrite the future. It's a story about how small actions can ripple out into massive consequences, but it also explores the fear that some futures might be inevitable, no matter how hard you try to avoid them. What makes this narrative resonate with readers is its sense of urgency and the deep emotional stakes for characters like Kitty Pryde, who in the comics is the one sent back in time, or Wolverine, who takes this role in the film adaptation. These characters are literally racing against time, fighting not just for their own survival, but for the survival of an entire species. On the other side of the time travel spectrum, we have Chrono Trigger, one of the most beloved and critically acclaimed video games of all time. Released in 1995 for the Super Nintendo, Chrono Trigger isn't just a game about hopping between time periods for fun, it's an epic journey where the fate of the world hangs in the balance. Players control a group of characters who, after stumbling upon a portal in time, realize they are the only ones who can stop a global catastrophe set to destroy the world in the far-off future. What sets Chrono Trigger apart from other time travel stories is the way it seamlessly weaves together different eras, from prehistoric times to a post-apocalyptic future, into a single, interconnected narrative. The decisions you make in one time period can affect the world in another, giving players a real sense of agency over the flow of history. But Chrono Trigger isn't just about the mechanics of time travel, it's also about the emotional weight of these journeys. The characters in the game form deep bonds as they confront their pasts and futures, and the narrative touches on themes of sacrifice, redemption, and the interconnectedness of all life. One particularly poignant aspect of the game is the way it handles the concept of fate. The players can visit multiple eras to try and change events, but there's always the lingering question of whether they can truly prevent the coming apocalypse or if they're merely delaying the inevitable. This creates a strong emotional core that goes beyond just stopping a bad guy or saving the world. It's about understanding that time itself is fragile and that every action matters. Both X-Men, Days of Future Past and Chrono Trigger highlight time travel as more than just a plot device. In each case, it's used to tell stories about the fragility of the present and the weight of future consequences. For the X-Men, it's about trying to rewrite history to avoid a dystopian nightmare. For the heroes in Chrono Trigger, it's about traveling through the ages to prevent the destruction of the world itself. Yet, in both stories, there's always the haunting sense that changing time isn't as simple as it seems, and that even the best of intentions can have unforeseen consequences. These stories endure because they speak to a universal desire to understand the past, to protect the future, and to find some control over the passage of time itself. Whether it's in a comic book panel or through the pixelated adventures of a video game, time travel continues to fascinate us, allowing us to imagine what it might be like to have the power to rewrite the very fabric of our lives. When it comes to time travel, the allure lies not just in the fantastic notion of bending time to our will, but in the vast implications it has on everything we understand about the universe, morality, and even ourselves. While the idea of hopping back to ancient Rome or leaping forward to see future technologies is thrilling, the practical challenges and speculative questions surrounding time travel are much more complex. The technological barriers alone feel insurmountable. For now, our understanding of space-time is largely theoretical, and while we can imagine warping time like a rubber band, the energy requirements are astronomical. We're talking about forces and conditions beyond anything humanity is currently capable of creating. In that sense, time travel remains more of a dream than a reality, an impossible puzzle that might one day be solved, but not by today's technology. And even if we could manage it, imagine the ethical dilemmas. The ability to alter the past would raise questions that shake the foundation of what it means to be human. Should we fix the wrongs of history? Should we stop wars before they start? Undo tragedies? Or would meddling with the timeline create new problems we can't even foresee? Time travel isn't just a scientific hurdle, it's a philosophical and ethical quagmire. The ripple effects of changing one small event in the past could cascade into unintended consequences, for better or worse. And who gets to decide which events are altered? What if the solution to one problem causes even greater harm? The butterfly effect, famously explored by Ray Bradbury in A Sound of Thunder, looms over any discussion of time travel. A single action could change the course of history in ways we can't predict, making the ethics of time travel an endless debate. There's also the question of free will. Time travel forces us to consider whether the past and future are fixed or if they can be rewritten. If we can change the past, does that mean the future is also in flux, or are we locked into a predetermined course no matter what we do? And what happens to causality when you start playing with time? Paradoxes like the grandfather paradox and the bootstrap paradox reveal the inherent contradictions in our understanding of how events relate to one another. If you go back in time and prevent your grandparents from meeting, how can you exist to go back in time in the first place? Or if you take an object back in time and it becomes the source of itself like an invention or an idea, where does it truly come from? These paradoxes reveal the mind-bending complexities of time travel, which might explain why Stephen Hawking once proposed that the laws of physics could include a kind of temporal protection mechanism, preventing paradoxes from ever occurring in the first place. The theoretical frameworks for time travel are no less fascinating. Einstein's theories of relativity suggest that time isn't as rigid as we once thought. Special relativity tells us that time moves slower for objects moving at high speeds, giving rise to time dilation, an effect proven in experiments, but still far from what we imagine as time travel. General relativity goes a step further, proposing that massive objects can warp space-time, possibly creating shortcuts or wormholes that could allow for travel between different points in space and time. But wormholes, even if they exist, come with their own set of problems, like stability and the immense energy required to keep them open. Cosmic strings, another speculative idea, are theorized as remnants from the early universe that could warp space-time enough to enable time travel, but these are purely hypothetical constructs that may or may not exist. Then there's the quantum side of things. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that particles can influence their own past, opening up wild possibilities for quantum time travel. But like everything in quantum physics, this remains deeply mysterious and far from any practical application. We're talking about phenomena that occur on scales so small and strange that they defy our everyday understanding of reality. In the end, time travel captivates us because it speaks to a fundamental human desire to escape the confines of the present, to fix the mistakes of the past, and to see what lies ahead. Whether through literature, movies, TV shows, or games, we're constantly imagining what it would be like to control time. From Back to the Future's DeLorean racing through the decades to Doctor Who's TARDIS darting through time and space, these stories offer us a taste of the impossible. But they also serve as a reminder that time is fragile and perhaps best left untouched. After all, in trying to control time, we might lose control of everything else.